about some things. I see ain't nobody online right now, so I'll give y'all a few minutes to get online as Andre Wade come to go live about another story and about something to learn about prison riots, Rick your riots. So we're gonna give you a few minutes. Got shade, got shave. I see we got one. We got a viewer. We got a viewer live. I don't know who you are, but I got something to tell you. I got something for you to know. Uh, oh, you done ran off? That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. Somebody will be back. hmm Andre Wade was just released. Yeah. Feel like old cowboy with all this here. I'm gonna trim this down. Yeah, it's got to come down because I'm looking like Fu Manchu. I see everybody enjoyed that last video. Some things is good to know when it's got to do with inside the prison walls. We have to be knowledgeable of the fact that anything can happen. Anything can happen in prison, but really anything can happen on a rec yard, especially old units. New units, they set the rec yards are separated. You got 8 building, you got 7 building, you got 4 building, 3 building, and you have the dorms, 18 and 19. 18 and 19 have a rec yard, a big nice rec yard, where 8, 7, 4, and 3 has small rec yards. And it's good to be knowledgeable of what's going on before you go in the rec yard, because if you're caught in a riot, and it could be in the day room, it could be in the chow house, in the hallways, or on the rec yard. If you get caught in a riot and you don't have anything to do with it, well, you might as well make it your business to get involved anyway, because you're finna get a major case along with everybody else. It used to didn't be like that back in the day. Back in the day, uh, when they apprehended everybody during a riot, they would make them all lay down, and then they'll make them all sit in Indian style, and they would put these riot bands on you. Well, they only focus on of that riot at that time was they'll look at your hands to see if your hands bruised. They'll look at your face and see if your face bruised. And if you didn't have any of these bruises, then they would take you off the rec yard. But everybody that's bruised would go to lockup. Where in today's time, they it doesn't matter if you're bruised or not. Everybody on the rec yard, they're gonna get everybody name, and they're gonna write everybody up a disciplinary case. And how you become knowledgeable of what's about to take place on a rec yard is that you you listen to the streets, meaning that you listen to what's going on, if you see a lot of Mexicans, if you see a lot of Mexicans, a lot, going to Reck, then it probably is good that you don't go. See, the Mexicans play with knives. See, the Mexicans, they're not real good fighters, but you have some that's some hell of fighters. But they love to play with knives, especially in riots. To where back in the day when they had nothing but the old units, and a riot would pop off in the day room. Well, the Spanish people would have knives already. Well, if it was between the blacks, most likely, which it would be against, they had old benches. They didn't have metal benches. They had old wooden benches. And all you can hear in that day room was benches coming apart. Clack, 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 clack. They men are snatching the wood apart, and then you have the nail parts inside the wood, and that's what we would use as weapons. Because one thing about the blacks is that they didn't really walk around with knives. Now the Mandingo warriors, they kept knives. They kept knives. They was like the Hispanics. When they come to do some harm upon some people, and mostly it's gonna be white boys or Hispanic. They didn't do a lot of black on black thing. It was, it was either against the laws or it was against the Hispanics. And like I say, back in the old days, you didn't have all these Hispanic gangs. You only had one, and that was Mexican Mafia, and they was running the unit when it came to Hispanic people. I don't care where you was from, Buffalo, Texas, Atlanta, Texas. I don't care where you was from. If you was Hispanic, you was among all Hispanic people, and they was all together as time changed. And you had all these RUs, you had all these, you got Pisces, you have what is that? Tongo Blast, and Tongo Blast had became an uprising gang in prison, and then on some units they tried to run it, and they do run it on some units, but the Mexicans, the Hispanic people got separated from one another, and now you had Hispanics on Hispanic riots, and these riots among these Hispanic people lasts a long time, to the point where the facility, the administration might lock up all the Hispanic people. If you're Hispanic, you got locked up, because when they allow them to walk in the hallways, they was finna crash. They was finna crash. It was on. Stabbings. These, the Hispanic rise was a lot of stabbing. Where if it was blacks, it was a lot of fighting. But you didn't see a lot of, like I say, like a lot of Crips and Bloods going to war. I never seen it, but I've heard that, it was taking place on some units, but not the unit that I was on at that time. The Crips and Bloods was never physically just going at it like that. But when you in these day rooms, right? You in these day rooms, and you are all right with some of the offenders. You have to ask questions. You have to, especially if you're a guy, you love to work out and you love to go to Rick. You have to really learn the ways of prison when it comes to rec yards, because rec yards can, a person can get caught up in that rec yard and get killed, and not even knowing that. If you're a neutron, see, neutrons go to war too. You gonna have to neutrons have to make their mind up and say Crips come to you. And they explain what's going on and they ask you what side you gonna take. Well, you have to have your mind up as a neutron of size what side you're gonna be on, and or if you're gonna indulge in it, because wherever after that ride or after that problem that goes on, and you didn't take part, you have to pay attention, because if somebody came to you and you turned them down, they might hurt you after. Yeah, they'll hurt you after that. And rides could, I remember on Ferguson back in the day they had a ride, and Ferguson had them small day rooms, and they had the way that the day rooms built. I've seen when rides take off, man, a lot of cats be trying to climb out of there. They be dated, and they might get stabbed in the back. They trying to climb out they climbing, they trying to get up out of there because they feel like they ain't got nothing to do with it. Well, you might as well get a knife too, or go to squabbling, because they'll hurt you too, especially if it's Spanish on black. They ain't caring what you are. They ain't caring that you a neutron. They not looking at it in that aspect. So you have to get you a knife too. Get your one of the main things that offender, and if you got any mentality of the streets of prison, you get your fan, and sometimes you buy you an extra fan, so out the streets, so you can use that fan motor. You take that motor out of the fan and you use it as a weapon. You can they stop selling canned goods, but they have things like locks. You can buy locks, multiple locks. You can buy 10 locks. They cost $10 or something, but you can buy these things and have these locks, and you have them as a weapon. You have them as a weapon, and if you hear through the grapevine that something about to take place, then you take them locks and you put them in socks. You put them in socks and you tie them on your hand. You tie them on your hand where they don't come loose. So if you go at it and you start, getting at it or in the ride, you got them locks and they're not going nowhere. Even if you get a knife, right? When you get a knife, you don't go into a ride just holding on to the knives because you can drop them. No, when you go into that ride, you have you some tape. You keep you some tape if you hear about through the grapevine and what's about to take place, and it can affect you, right? You take that tape and you tie that knife inside your hand, right? You tape it inside your hand, and where that knife don't come loose, that knife don't come out. You won't drop it, and it's always in your hand, and you can be affected like that. You can be a beast. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna be talked about. You're gonna be talked about. They're gonna say, man, they had one guy up in there. Man, that man had them knives. See them Hispanic guys, when they go to war, they have the knives in their hand because they see in their mindset they feel like they are really a dangerous people. But blacks are really a dangerous people, right? With them hands. See, the Mexicans need their knives. But see, I've seen guys get whooped with knives in hand, get hit so hard, and they knock the knife out their hand or something. They forget all about the knife because they getting whooped. They trying to cover up now. They trying to they balling up because they don't forgot about the knife. Yeah, they forgot about the knife. But when we go to these rec yards, if you on an old facility like East Ham, Ellis, Wynn unit, these types of units has big rec yards, and a lot of people go to rec. I remember when I was on Ellis one night, and they have in and outs on at rec, right? It just so happened I felt the tension.
I was on. A matter of fact, I was almost on. I was on one. I always got away for some reason. I followed my first mind because I seen the tension. I seen how groups of people was grouping up and all this in. They wasn't talking about the Bible. So when they called that first in and out one night, I went in. But I'm not thinking about Riot. I just felt like it was a lot of tension on the yard. So next thing I know, when I was on the tank, I heard them calling fight, fight, and they were slamming the barricades right, and they was on. It was on the Rick yard. It was on the Rick yard, and some people that wasn't even a part of it got major cases. But just something told me to go in. Now this could, I don't know if they waited. That was their intention, to wait until they called that in and out, because the next one was gonna be Reck time off the Rick yard. But they whoever it was, they took care of their business. And one night I was on the Rick yard. I was on the small Rick yard. But the reason why I went in, cause see, one of my homeboys, that was my first time ever smoking a blunt. And we was on Rick yard, and we was walking around Rick yard, and we smoking this blunt. I'm high. Ooh, I was high. I had never smoked a blunt before, right? And my partner, he said, "You want to smoke a blunt?" I said, "Yeah." And they pulled that big. I say, "Man, what did he say?" "Yeah, that's the blunt." And man, that stuff had me so high. I say, "Man, I'm finna go in." And this night, it was you could call it a ride, but it was more like some brothers getting into it with one another. One of my partners, man, he both of these guys was my partner really, and but matter of fact, it was Jay Prince out of Fifth Ward. Y'all know him as Lil James. I think he was one of his uh, nephews, and he called him Prince. He was on Ellis One, but Prince had some hands, right? But he had got into it with this little old dude that was out of Fort Worth. And this little old dude out of Fort Worth, he really didn't mess with nobody. But he was bad with his hands. He was bad with his hands. I forgot his last name because he had a brother I did time with on East Ham back in the day. But him and his boy, him and Prince got into it. And Prince was a good dude. Prince was a good dude. I don't know what initiated this, but they said Funky Town tried to back up, but Prince didn't want to back up. I guess Prince out that age, and he representing that age. You know what I'm saying? So he had been locked up a minute. They both got into it. Dewberry, that was the boy named Dewberry, and Dewberry was out of Fort Worth. But boy, Dewberry was bad with them hands. He whooped Prince, man. He whooped Prince, and he whooped him so much that he had the penitentiary was kind of quiet. And the reason why the penitentiary was kind of quiet is because we talking about Lil Prince and we talking about Dewberry. Both of these guys are pretty much known among the people, even wherever you was from. So things was talked about because some of the guys wanted to retaliate against the Fort Worth dudes, and because Houston was deep over there, but it died down. I think Prince and Dewberry came among and apologized to one another and everything. But cause Prince, like I say, look, Prince was a good dude. Dewberry was a good dude. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us really hated to see that take place because uh, we didn't like to see blacks on black fights. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes the Hispanic and the Caucasian dudes, they be standing on the side, smiling or laughing because they enjoyed two black men fighting one another. And but it brought among a few other cats, but it didn't escalate into a riot. But I was out there, and but I went in because it was a baseball game on. I think it was playoff time, so I had went in full of that blunt. High as I was high. Ooh, I was high, and so, but
we have to pay attention. We have to pay attention. We have to learn on how to know when something, because you can feel it. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying when you can feel it. I lived in the streets, dangerous streets here in Houston, and in prison I was on some dangerous units. So like I say, on East Ham, when you walked into the unit, you could smell death. You could smell blood, and you can smell fear. It was in there. It was so thick. The smell was so thick you can cut it with a knife. It was so thick. But these units that has these big rec yards, if you ever end up on one, pay attention, people. All you have to do is pay attention to the Hispanics, because they gonna run in a pile, and when they run in that pile, it's not, something ain't good. You don't know who they after. You don't know if they after you and your partners. You don't know, but you have to find out, because the word in the streets is gonna be uh, what's taking place, what's happening, and you'll know. You'll know. You'll really know, because blacks is not gonna leave other blacks in the blind unless you was a real mob. Now, if you was a real mob, man, ain't nobody gonna tell you nothing. They'll let you go on out there on the rec yard, so you can get your ass stabbed or something. They're not gonna really worry about what's happening to you. You know, and I don't care where you're from. I don't care where you're from, but if you all right, cat, and I don't care where you from, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, they gonna back you. These dudes gonna back you, and I'm gonna tell you something about them Dallas dudes and them Fort Worth dudes. It was whatever. It wasn't about you being wrong. What's up? What we gonna do? That was the mindset that them guys had. And the Houston guys, Houston guys felt as they had a lot of flavor. And it's just some things they wasn't gonna get into. Some of them felt as if, man, they would say, "Oh man, he was wrong." It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when a Hispanic or a white boy is out to get him. It don't matter to us that he's wrong. Is we gonna help him? Is what's up? Because I remember one time a little partner of mine named Blacklock passed a few years ago. He he got into it with one of our other homeboys. So but Blacklock, that's our boy. So he telling us me to go home on Rick, y'all, cause it's supposed to be some stuff tonight. So all these Houston cats coming up out the woodwork. You got dudes that been locked up for ages, man. Old dudes, and everybody and their mama went out there to go help Blacklock. But we get out there on the Rick, y'all. I'm talking about we H-Town deep. We going against another homeboy at the H. And he had his partners. We didn't feel that. We didn't feel that because that was our H-Town, right? And and so we went to Blacklock. Man, if it's anything, you can go ahead and fight him one on one. But Blacklock didn't want to fight that boy one on one, cause Blacklock really ain't had nothing, right? He always wanted somebody, to really fight for him. You know what I'm saying? And but it didn't escalate, and the only reason why it really didn't escalate is because homeboys against homeboys, and that wasn't what gonna work. That wasn't gonna work. If it was Blacklock against somebody else that we didn't know, it was gonna be some trouble that night. Cause like I say, man, you had some dudes come out the woodworks, man, that you wouldn't even think would come out, man. Them dudes came out with knives. You had dudes like Buckwheat, Big Ed, all these dudes, Mandingo Warriors. Them dudes came for war, right? Them dudes came to hurt somebody. They ain't come to play. But when we got out there, man, you had Pinky out there. Pinky. And anybody know Pinky now? Pinky was beast with his hand, but Pinky was kind of
You know, he had been locked up a long time at that time. But they all came to Black like aid because he was a homeboy. But he tried to get us to go against other homeboys. We were mad at Black Lock for a while behind that. We really was because he he brought a lot of attention among one of our homeboys. And like I say, we didn't know it, but when we got out there, it was homeboys. But and that was on the rec yard. That was on East Ham. They got north and south rec yards, and these big rec yards, people. These big rec yards, and you got one officer working the rec yard. Can't do nothing. Can't stop nothing. But you know, and it always gonna be a fight. You know what I'm saying? Like when you go to Rick and at 12 o'clock, it's hot. And if it's summertime or something, it be hot and they be out there playing that ball, right? I seen many dudes get knocked out on that basketball court, bumping and not knowing that, man, a dude will steal you and knock you out and knock your teeth out and all that. I seen a guy, old Brent Reed, old school, he old school and he shoot that ball all day too, like a youngster. But another partner of ours, he was out of Oak Cliff. He knocked that boy out, man. He knocked that boy out, knocked all his teeth out, and everybody was kind of messed up, man. I'm talking about it didn't matter, like I say, where you was from. Brent Reed was a good dude, and the dude that knocked him out, he was all right. But the dude that knocked him out, kind of young, had no business knocking him out, man. Cause Brent Reed, the old school, man. And one thing about East Ham in them days, they respected old school dudes, cause a lot of them old school dudes was real dangerous. It was real dangerous. But Brent Reed, he wasn't no really physical guy, and you ain't gonna never see Brent Reed getting no altercation with nobody, and to where it's from about to escalate into a fight. So I don't know what happened that day that made him get himself knocked out, and he had already been playing 4 5 basketball game, running up and down that court, and was tired and got knocked out and got his teeth knocked out. I stopped playing ball, man. I stopped playing ball because I didn't want that to happen to me, man. I just couldn't. I don't think I could take get knocked out and get my teeth knocked out in prison on the rec yard because I'm gonna be wanting to stab that dude. I'm gonna be wanting to hurt that dude. Cause I had some fight where a dude whooped me. Yeah, this dude that they called him Baby Tyson whooped me one night. Baby Tyson, boy, was bad with his hand, but I just got out the shower when I had some slides on, and what he did to me is what I normally do to somebody else, cause that's an advantage, man. And he threw them things at me, man. And instead of me getting out of the slides, I still had the slides on, and I slipped. You know what I'm saying? Trying to throw punches in some slides, that don't work. Don't get caught. Don't get caught in them shower slide, people. Don't get caught in them shower slides. Back in the day, you didn't even come to the day room and shower slides, but this was one of them new units where they had showers. So I found myself uh, in a position where I suppose I got whooped. And cause I ain't scared to talk about the time I got beat up, because I only got beat up, I think, one time in prison. But like I say, I ain't have a whole lot of fights. You know what I'm saying? I got partners like BK out of Houston. Straight up out there, Clark. Was a beast with his hands. You know what I'm saying? Had many fights. Gonna stab something, he gonna go to war. You know what I'm saying? And he had to fight a lot of dudes because of his nature of how he lived in prison. And believe me, you ain't gonna hear too much about him getting beat up. Always hear about how BK knocked a man out or whooped him. BK was a beast. And he must whoop some of our own homeboys bumping. Because you ain't gonna bump with him. And he's one of them kind of individuals. But I respect everybody, like I say. I ain't care where you was from. Well, some of my best partners was out of San Antonio. Some of my best partners was out of Dallas and Fort Worth. You know what I'm saying? Galveston. You know what I'm saying? But when you're dealing with these dudes, everybody of their nature, of their own city, has certain ways. And you could draw a picture of how these guys were, right? You could draw a picture because each one of them had
a different mentality about how to live in the streets and what to expect in prison on rec yards. Rec yard riots are serious, people. There's been many people left dead on the rec yard. There's been many people left stabbed on the rec yard because they just want to go to rec. Rec nowadays. All right, G Town. All right, yeah. There's some G Town out there, G Town. If y'all don't know, that's Galveston. Yeah, Galveston, Texas. Yeah, down up in on that seawall, up on there. I tell, yeah, I like that. Glad hit me up, huh? But I just want to let y'all know, man, and try to enlighten you on a lot of things that goes on in prison and some of the smallest things that we don't pay attention to could cause us our life inside of prison. Because just because they call it on Rick don't mean you need to go. You know what I'm saying? You can exercise in your cell if you one of them kind that night. If you hear something about to take place and you might say, well, man, it ain't got nothing to do with me. Yeah, it got something to do with you because if you're on the rec yard and in Hispanic against black, they ain't caring about who you are. All they caring about you being black. And that goes with the Hispanic, that goes with the Caucasian men as well. Not just talking about the blacks getting caught up. Hispanics, you know what I'm saying? You might be of a different gang and there's another gang going against another Hispanic gang. They don't care about what you are. They're gonna be caring about what you look like, and that's being an Hispanic. So we don't have to be a part of everything, man, in prison. We don't have to always think that's where, because you're going to have one of them partners. Like, we used to go to Rick all the time on Friday nights, get haircuts for getting ready for the weekend. Yeah, and we did that a lot, but that was in the day where you can dictate a lot. You can dictate things. You can predict things that was gonna take place. And back in the old days, they didn't leave you out of anything. They made sure you knew. They'll come to all blacks and say, hey man, don't y'all go to chow anywhere, just one person. Don't no one person get caught in that hallway. Don't no one person get caught on that rec yard because the Mexicans is tripping. And the Mexicans, they would fall. Let's say you going through the barricades or you going through them little old doors they have in them new units, and you by yourself, and you fall in between there waiting on to open the door, and 3, 4 Mexicans fall up in there. Man, they finna pull out knives on you. They finna pull out knives on you. And because that's their nature, you know what I'm saying? That's their nature. They're gonna play with that knife, and you're gonna be out there with some books in your hand, coming from somewhere that could help you. And here it is, these men are there to try to hurt you. So let's get caught up on what not to do. You know what I'm saying? And instead of what we need to do, let's listen to me now. When you listen to Just Release Andre Wade, I'm trying to wake you up on some things in case you find yourself in this predicament. And even if you're not one of those who might end up in prison, but you might have a loved one in prison, you can tell them about how what I talk about. What I talk, you might have a brother or sister, somebody in prison for the first time, and if they in there for the first time, they ain't seen a lot. They ain't seen a lot yet. They ain't, it's a lot that they ain't took place in their life yet. Like I say, they got Priya now, and Priya will deal with you if you one of them crooked people. They got a rat, right? They got a rat and on posters, and the rat got the commissary bag, and he got a little mask on, and seeing that rat represent the bad guy, right? And so extortion, extortion takes place in prison. A lot of people get extorted a lot. So that's what that rat represent. And Prill will deal with you. So don't ever get caught up with them either. The Prill people, a lot of y'all know about them, and a lot of y'all don't. But let's not get caught up or caught on the wreck yard into no rides, because I'm giving you the heads up. I'm giving you the thumbs up of what to do if you end up in prison. You know, you once you're gonna have a partner that you're gonna get indulged with. You're gonna find somebody that you're gonna get indulged with, and just pay attention, listen. Don't be quick to speak all the time. Don't be feel like that you know everything. Listen and see what some of the guys got to give you that's been locked up on them units a long time. And if you get somewhere with McConnell or Conley or Tailfoot, all these units here are some dangerous units still. So, you know, we know they got a bunch of punk play going on in the walls, but they still got rides that'll take place. So this is Andre Wade with Just Release, and I'll be back with something else.